Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Sophie Erber. Siouxlanders have spent this Friday navigating the first major snowstorm of 2021. While there hasn't been that much actual snow, the high winds and low visibility creating issues for drivers. And it's our top story at 5. Now, these are the current road conditions here in Sioux City from our live Storm Tracker 9. Of course, very different compared to just a few hours ago. Officials do report blowing snow and scattered slippery spots on many roads. However, the weather in Siouxland is expected to calm down over the next few hours, so some good news there. Meteorologist Marcus Beasley joining us now with the very latest. Marcus, just how strong were those wind gusts today? Because depending on when and where you felt it, felt pretty strong. Right, 40 to 50 miles per hour is what most of us were seeing last night and today. The good news, the snows really began to stop here in the last couple of hours. It was snowing pretty heavily right around noon and into the early afternoon, but we are going to see those snow showers begin to continue to wind down overnight tonight. Temperatures out there, they're hovering just below freezing, upper 20s, lower 30s throughout much of Siouxland, 30 degrees in Sioux City. So we are seeing those temperatures below freezing, but notice satellite radar here in the last few hours, that moisture really dwindling down as the storm system continues to move to the east. We are going to see that snow come to a stop tonight, but with wind gusts still possible around 30 to 40 miles per hour tonight, expect low visibilities and blowing snow to continue. I'll have more details on that and what it's looking like this weekend coming up in the 9 on 9. Sophie?
All right, thanks, Marcus. Well, the weather also causing problems for Siouxlanders first responders. Around 6:30, fire crews responding to a call of a basement fire on the 600 block of Isabella Street this morning. There were reports that someone might have been trapped inside that home. However, crews arrived and found the fire on the main floor of the house. But fire trucks were struggling to get to that scene because of today's weather conditions. 2 trucks got stuck on the way there.
So the wintertime, it creates a lot of challenges because not only do we have the ice to deal with and getting to the call, but things that we have to worry about are people falling down and getting injured, which it happened several times this morning already. Another thing that we have to worry about are hose lines freezing up and the pumps on the engines freezing up too.
Officials tonight report no one was injured in that house fire. And as we start to enter the snowiest months of the year, we're here to remind you some tips on safe driving. Trooper John Farley with the Iowa State Patrol says be careful in case there is ice underneath the snow on highways. Even though it might appear to be clear, that black ice could be dangerous. Also, if you can, stay on the heavily driven roads because it will be safer.
If you're out in the unprotected areas, out in the rural interstates, after the bridges and overpasses, you might see some drifting along the shoulders or even across the roadway. Make sure that, again, you're slowing down. Don't try to swerve to avoid them. You know, it's best just to go through them.
High winds can, of course, worsen your driving as well as your visibility. Taking it slow, keeping an emergency winter kit in your car, and limiting your distractions while driving are some of the safest ways to go about driving through a blizzard. And despite the temperature, officials tonight warning residents to stay off McCook Lake until the lake can completely refreeze. The recent warm weather has created some open areas and thin ice on parts of that lake. The Sioux City man charged with second-degree murder and first-degree arson has now been sentenced to 75 years in prison. 31-year-old Jordan Henry was found guilty by the district court judge back in November last year. The charges stemming from the January 2019 death of 40-year-old Elizabeth Bachholt in a room at the Wingate Hotel. That hotel room was set on fire. According to court documents, Bachholt met Henry at the hotel where they smoked meth before Henry strangled her to death. He then started the room on fire. Henry must serve 35 years of his sentence before he's even eligible for parole. From our nation's capital now. Tonight, lawmakers alleging that some of their colleagues gave suspicious tours of the Capitol building the day before the insurrection. Michael Shore explains.
Gentlemen will proceed.
An allegation from a member of Congress that some of her own and as yet unnamed colleagues were just a day earlier giving tours to some who took part in the assault and vandalism last Wednesday.
And that investigation has started and is now ongoing. So I'm not talking about exactly the people that I saw, but I will be conveying that to them. However, make no mistake, the only way that these people, these groups, could have gotten into the complex is if another member of Congress or their staff walked them in.
New Jersey Democrat Mikey Sherrill and 30 colleagues sent a tersely worded letter to the newly installed acting House Sergeant at Arms and Capitol Police Chief, making claims and asking questions, including whether authorities track visitors to the Capitol by member of Congress.
The only reason you'd have a visitor is on official business. So to see these groups around the Capitol complex was really striking.
Did this Congress led by
Texas Republican Chip Roy needs to hear more.
If somebody's going to make a charge like that, they better be able to back it up.
Former Representative Ben McAdams agrees the Capitol tours are a perk of being members, but that times have changed.
And so I would often take constituents who are in town, I take them in the evening to tour the Capitol, and that's a privilege that you have as a member of Congress. But in March, those tours ended, and the Capitol was shut down to anyone but immediate family.
Getting to the bottom of this will take time. Ohio Democrat Tim Ryan says it's simply part of investigating January 6th.
We should ask all members if they were giving tours in the days prior to January 6th. I would hope every member would volunteer that information. It doesn't mean that anything, a member of Congress was necessarily conspiring.
Dr. Anthony Fauci criticizing the initial rollout of the coronavirus vaccine across our country tonight.
You've got to have a good flow, and you've got to be able to expeditiously get it into people's arms once it gets to the place that has been distributed to. Unfortunately, that has not worked as smoothly as possible.
Dr. Fauci says President-elect Joe Biden will be discussing his plans to ensure further coordination between the federal government and the states, this on administering the vaccines. He also confirmed that he believed it would be possible to do 100 million vaccinations in the first 100 days of the Biden presidency. And President-elect Joe Biden saying there's another post-inauguration plan on top of the faster COVID-19 vaccinations. That includes a $1.9 trillion rescue package for federal relief with a $1,400 payment to most Americans.
The $600 already appropriated is simply not enough. You just have to choose between paying rent and putting food on the table.
Biden hoping the Senate can move quickly on economic relief while dealing with impeachment. The earliest possible start for an impeachment trial could be this Wednesday, Inauguration Day. Several Test Iowa sites were closed today because of the weather, and they will not be reopening now until Tuesday of next week. Those who do have appointments scheduled will be receiving an email from Test Iowa, and they can reschedule. Sites in Cedar Rapids, Davenport, and Waterloo all plan to stay open as scheduled, but that could, of course, change depending on local conditions. Monday is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which also means all sites across the state will be closed for the holiday. Let's take a look now at the latest COVID-19 numbers here in Siouxland today. Woodbury County health officials reporting 25 cases in 24 hours. There are also 31 patients currently in hospital with coronavirus. In Nebraska, Dakota County also having positive tests today. Those numbers not yet available. And also in South Dakota, new cases reported today in Yankton County. They do have active cases and more than 2,600 total during the pandemic. The pandemic has forced a lot of Siouxland businesses to adapt quickly as COVID restrictions and guidelines continue changing weekly sometimes. For one South Sioux City business that opened its doors in 2020, it has been especially tough. KCAU 9 News reporter Marina Bach looking at the ups and downs of running a new business in the time of COVID-19.
We were very excited because it was the culmination of a 5-year project, a 5-year dream, and we were very excited about the response.
First Serve Tennis Center opened their doors on January 2nd of 2020.
I was very worried that perhaps we might have to shut our doors completely, and what would that mean? And we had adults that had to pull out of the league for underlying conditions, things like that. Parents certainly pulled kids out for understandable reasons.
The facility stayed open despite a significant drop in business. The decision paid off and business picked back up again.
We met tennis players that we had no idea existed. And then we introduced others to the sport, and it actually grew through the summertime.
These days, just over a year after opening, and with COVID still around, business is booming.
We have 96 kids signed up for this session. We have 3 doubles leagues and 3 singles leagues. And overall, we have, I want to say, 55 adults in those leagues.
The plan is to continue to grow. and to serve up a family-friendly game in an uncertain time.
So if we can show these kids and even new adults that are starting to play, I mean, they'll have something to do with their family and friends for the rest of their life. So the whole goal is, yeah, just to grow.
In South Sioux City, Marina Bach, KCAU 9 News.
COVID-19 has inspired many new trends this year, from Zoom happy hours to reserve parades. How the pandemic has inspired new consumer tech, coming up.
It looks like the snow is going to come to an end tonight. We'll have a cool and dry weekend and flurries possible on Monday. All of those details after the break.
You're watching KCAU 9 News with Sophie Erber and meteorologist Marcus Beasley. This is KCAU 9 News at 5.
Thanks for sticking with us. A nice day to stay inside if you could. Really, this storm would not be that bad if it weren't for the wind, because quite frankly, we barely got any snow out of this system.
Yeah, we really haven't seen a lot of snow from this, and I don't have official reports yet because the storm isn't quite over, so I don't have snowfall totals just yet here throughout Siouxland. But from the initial reports from this morning and earlier this afternoon, most of Siouxland seeing somewhere around 2 to 3 inches of snow from this system. On the higher end, around 4 to 5 in parts of eastern Siouxland. So again, most of us seeing a few inches at least throughout the area today and last night as well. The view outside the KCAU 9 studio brought to you by the Port Neal Welding Company, showing them looking like they are going to be around where they should be for this time of year.
And I was going to say, really, we're supposed to be in the 30s, so it's a cool down, but not much.
Right, and it's not going to be too awfully cold either.
Right. All right, thanks a lot, Marcus. Well, a wild video from the National Weather Service outpost in Omaha showing just how intense the winds were early this morning. Check it out. A meteorologist launching a weather balloon this morning, but almost got blown away himself. The National Weather Service launched these weather balloons. They launch them daily to collect data on atmospheric pressure, which is used to create models used in our weather forecast. Some fun video there. Glad he's all right. Well, most people nowadays have a million passwords to remember, and we'll forget one from time to time, but usually it's no big deal. Why one man tonight really regretting forgetting his password, coming up in about 8 minutes. But first, the high-tech gadgets trying to protect us from COVID-19 on display at CES 2021. Stay with us. The impact of the pandemic was clear at this year's CES. Rich DeMuro takes a look at just some of the gadgets that aim to keep us clean and healthy.
This week in Las Vegas, a message for CES. We miss you.
It's, on the one hand, a bummer.
For decades, the tech trade show has taken over the city each January, with over 100,000 attendees from around the world and gadgets galore.
The advantage is that you get to play with them and touch them and, you know, walk around and take a look at them. So that aspect of the show is missing.
Even at this year's all-digital CES, the impact of the pandemic is clear, with plenty of gadgets that promise to keep us clean and healthy.
Health and wellness is always a category that CES explores, but it's taken on new meaning.
LG showed off a wearable air purifier. The smart mask has a rechargeable battery to work for 2 to 8 hours. Then there's Mask Phone, which combines a face mask with built-in earbuds.
So you don't have to lift the corner when you make a phone call or want to talk on your phone.
Touchless tech is everywhere. Arlo making a doorbell that uses a proximity sensor to ring itself when someone approaches. Kohler is bringing touchless water faucets to consumer bathrooms. Even a retrofit kit so older models can go hands-free.
The less that you can touch, the better for you, because that is obviously a way that this virus is transmitted.
UV lights are everywhere. Targus making one that sits on your desk to disinfect every hour. While the Scosche Magic Fogger is a portable antibacterial sanitizer. It uses a safe organic mist to instantly attack germs and viruses.
Looks like fun. Want to try a few of those. Well, a man forgot a password to his Bitcoin wallet, now worth more than $200 million. What advice he's received to help him reclaim those millions in Bitcoin next. It's not uncommon we forget the password to our email account or maybe some social media account. But for one man, the stakes are higher than for most people. He's forgotten his password, and it's costing him millions of dollars. Check this out. San Francisco resident Stefan Thomas lost the key to unlock his digital wallet that holds 7,000 Bitcoins, which translates to a whopping $220 million now. The correct password is locked in a hard drive that gives users 10 guesses before it locks forever. Thomas has only 2 more tries to gain access to his fortune.
A lot of people are offering various solutions. everything from the silly to like, for example, one person suggested, have you tried the word password? So that was one. Some people have recommended various mediums, psychics, prophets that I could talk to.
And Thomas isn't alone. The New York Times reports $140 billion worth of Bitcoin appear to be lost or stranded in similar digital wallets. What a shame. Well, it could be a profitable weekend for lucky lottery players as two of the largest jackpots in the United States history will be on the line at the same time. Numbers will be drawn tonight for the $750 million Mega Millions prize. That is the 5th largest jackpot ever. The spokesperson with IA Lottery says lotto sales were actually down for most of 2020 because of the pandemic.
And when the jackpots are low, then sales are lower. When sales are lower, then the jackpots stay lower. And that was the case for months in 2020. And then as we got to the end of the year, they both started to pick up steam, both at the same time. So again, just another kind of strange coincidence.
On Saturday, players will have a chance at a $640 million Powerball prize. That is the 8th largest jackpot. Well, taking a live look outside right now. Marcus returns right after this break with one more check on your forecast. Before wrapping up at 5, let's check in first with Tim for what's coming up at 6. Hi, Tim.
Hey, good afternoon, Sophie. It's been a day off for a lot of folks. No schools closed. Businesses have been closed for most of the day. And another reminder, snow emergencies are still in effect across a great part of our area. So before you park on the road tonight, make sure you check your own community. Driving conditions in town, not that bad right now, but across the rural parts, it's a different story. Strong winds producing drifting and difficult conditions. We'll update at 6. Also look at the battles that plow operators are having to face. That's in about a half hour. And also after World News tonight, a reunion story of a family and the dog that they loved. Relocations forced the family to let their dog go to a different family, but 12 years later, they're together again. I'll tell you about that, and obviously that's a story that's not happening here in the Midwest with that green grass.
Yeah, green grass is something I think we all might be dreaming about now, except for those snow lovers. And one more quick check on our weather through the weekend now.
It does look like the snow is going to wind down overnight tonight, but we can still see some blowing snow out there as wind gusts are still going to be anywhere from around 30 to 40 miles per hour tonight. Tomorrow, it looks like we'll have high temperatures right around 30 degrees, mostly cloudy skies. The good news, it looks like we're not going to see any additional snow here tomorrow.
That is good news. Thanks, Marcus, and thank you for joining us. See you tonight at 6. Good night.